Hey guys, friendly neighborhood Doc here. So I've got some good news, bad news to start off this video talking about the comics that I picked up and read today. The bad news is my job has changed a little bit. I'm still working at the same place, but my responsibilities are now going to be including on Wednesday. So that's going to mean that my videos might come out a little bit differently scheduled. I haven't quite sat down yet to think about it. But for right now, at least, I'm going to be working on Wednesdays, on Wednesday morning. So you won't be getting the videos quite as early in the day. I will still get to them on Wednesday, just later on. Anyway, now that bit of house cleaning is done, I really haven't had time since I worked all day to read over everything in the way that I would like to, so that I could discuss them at great length. So I'm really just going to go over, for this particular video, what books I picked up. And we'll go over those together, and we'll talk about those down in the comments. You guys let me know what you picked up as we go along. And hopefully everything will come to a new sense of order within the next couple of weeks. It's just kind of a transition period, folks. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just I don't have enough time to do this particular video justice tonight. I will figure it out by the time that next week's video comes out. But for right now, we're just going to have to do a shorter video. Anyway, enough apologizing and commiserating. So let's go ahead and see what I picked up this week. Let's see. What are we going to start with here? Pull all of them out at once. So we will start with issue 14 of Conan the Barbarian. This is still written by Jim Zub with art by Doug Braithwaite and colors by Rodriguez. This is going to continue the march towards the Black Stone series of books with art by the really amazing Doug Braithwaite. He's not as great, in my opinion, as Rob De La Torre, but he's really a good fit. I would say that it gets continuity for the artwork based on what you've seen come before. And he did the second set of stories, the second arc in this particular title. So it's nice to see that we're not just doing De La Torre, Braithwaite, De La Torre, ex-artist, De La Torre, ex-artist, that sort of thing. It's nice to see that we're having some sort of continuity. But it does say, on the road of kings. Heading his wanderlust into the frozen north, Conan of Samaria sought a challenge to test his mettle. Recalling his father's words of Crom, their mighty mountain god, but unsure of their validity, Conan threw himself against nature's fury, seeking purpose in combat, felling first a trio of wolves and then slaying a brutal bear. Conan recognized the power in his own steel-set strength. Yet on returning to his campsite, Conan discovered he was joined by wolves of a different kind. Acermen, ready to take the Cimmerian's hard-fought game, or his life, all while a mysterious woman silently spied from the trees above. So, this title has been very strong. I think it's one of the best that has ever come out of Conan. So if you hadn't been checking it out, I really highly recommend it. And I would say that it's an A+ book. It's one of the few books that I really look forward to every month. Okay, next up, we have the return of Black Cloak. And this is by Kelly Thompson with art by Meredith McLaren, and I believe colors by Becca Carey. And this book has been going for quite some time, but it started out with a really strong premise that there was a fallen princess, and she's now practically a Blade Runner or a cop in this future. And so she has to solve the murder of her ex-fiancé with one of her cop friends that she works with on the beat. And this book has taken a really long siesta here, but I thoroughly enjoyed the artwork by Meredith McLaren in that first 6 issues because it felt like it had almost a saga vibe. It was one of the best books that I think I read when it came out. It was really amazing. Let me see if I can show you some of the artwork in here and show you why I'm so excited about it. It's got impish style to it, the artwork, but at the same time, panels like this, it shows the world. In the backgrounds, McLaren has shown so much world building and so much storytelling that it's hard not to get sucked into this world of politics and death. And, I don't tend to go for socio-political intrigue. That is not something that I'm interested to read because I get enough inter-office politics at my job and in life, so I don't want to have to deal with that when I come home and I read my comics. So I don't really get into stuff like that very often. The Department of Truth by James Tynion is probably about as close as I get to something of that nature. But Black Cloak has really pulled me in, so I'm looking forward to reading this title, and I'm so glad that it's back, just like I'm glad that Saga itself is back, so I can't wait to dig into this one. All right, next up, we have a Facsimile edition of Amazing Spider-Man 259, which is another one of the original Symbiote issues, where it was Venom before it became known as Venom. So this was written by Tom DeFalco with art by Ron Frenz and inks by Joe Rubinstein, I believe. And it's just classic ASM. And this is what I wish they would get back to in the current ASM title. Solid storytelling, a compelling hero, dastardly villains that bring true chaos into his world. Not just a villain of the month sort of thing, but somebody who intends on wiping out Spider-Man for what they consider to be the greater good. Relationships, true relationships, and true conversations between Peter Parker, Mary Jane, his supporting cast. I don't know. It's like stories back then had depth to them. And I know that sounds silly because we're talking about comic books, and especially comic books that had really only started to grow up from the 60s into the 80s like this. But I really think that the storytelling at that time was, if not greater, and not in excess of what we're getting today, then it was at least on par. Because it wasn't so much about politics, religion, gender equality, things like that. And I'm not saying that those things aren't important, but those stories should not be the driving force behind a superhero comic book. Roger Stern, not too long before this issue, wrote The Kid Who Collected Spider-Man. It didn't talk about his race. It didn't talk about whether he came from an impoverished family or a rich family. It talked about the story of a kid who loved Spider-Man more than anything else, and he was sick and he was going to die. And so Peter Parker, uncharacteristically, revealed his face to this kid because he knew he was going to die soon. And more than anything, he wanted to be Spidey's pal. He wanted to know him. And the only way that you can know him is to take that mask off. Now, like I've said before, I think one of Spider-Man's greatest strengths is that anybody could be Spider-Man under that mask. He is truly the everyman the original everyman of comics. So it's really great to go back and reread these as though I was getting them, as they were coming out. So that's been a really good feeling and really cool to go back and relive some books that I didn't get to originally read because it was just a few years before I was at that level. But at the same time, I can appreciate as an adult the detail, the care that went into the storytelling that was in these books. Now, DeFalco's run was not quite as celebrated as Roger Stern's, but I think a lot of what DeFalco was doing at this point was still somewhat based off of where Stern was possibly going to go. I don't want to put words into Tom DeFalco's mouth or to Roger Stern's mouth, but I still think that some of this first 5 or 6 issues that DeFalco took over the title, I want to say were based on the bones of Roger Stern's run. So if you like classic Spider-Man stories, and in this issue in particular, it says the original suit is back instead of the black suit. If you like those stories, definitely pick this up. Okay. Next up, we have issue 5. The issue 5 facsimile of Crisis on Infinite Earths from DC. This is part 5 of the 12-part maxi series. It continues the story of the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor. It cleaned up a lot of continuity errors and issues that DC had going into being a 50-year-old comic book company at that point. And I've talked about it before, and I'll continue to talk about it again under the greatest hits stories that I'm sorry, guys, I've just kind of fallen off on some of these series that I've been talking about. This and the Secret Wars videos I was doing, I'll get those back up, very, very soon. But I just think between the artwork and the level of detail, not just in the artwork, but in the story, I think with Wolfman not really pushing it out like Shooter did, just so that it would become first, I think that's where we get a better and more cohesive story, and one that, to me, is lasting more so than Secret Wars. Secret Wars gave us Venom. Secret Wars gave us Jessica Drew as Spider-Woman 2. It gave us a lot of things that could be built upon. But Crisis on Infinite Earths actually consolidated whole chunks of DC history that had been convoluted almost since the time that they were born as ideas from the original writers. There were so many worlds, so many versions of Batman, for so many versions of Superman, so many versions of all of these great characters that they needed to be solidified into not necessarily one timeline, but very few timelines compared to where they had been before. So I'll talk at more length about Crisis Facsimile issue 5 when we get to that section on the greatest hits videos. Okay. Then we have the long gestating Planetary Expansion, issue number 3 by Critical Entertainment. This story is best summed up by the back section here. The time has come to think about humankind's ultimate destination. It's not on Earth, it's not on the wastelands of Mars, it's beyond. In another solar system exists a habitable planet just like Earth, with fresh air, clean water, and sustainable life. 1,000 hand-selected passengers with a better vision for the future will brave the dangers of space and push themselves past the limit to get there. Watch human nature unfold as the crew and citizens of the starship take their massive leap into the great beyond. Follow the journey of an all-star athlete, a famous musician, a boy with his dog, a girl and her twin, an outcast running from his past, a scientist chasing her dream, and the rest of the passengers aboard the Aegis. So this is, when I first started trying to find it, it was tough to find this series because Critical Entertainment is not a huge company, And, I'll give you two guesses as to what started popping up under Google when I put in planetary comic. The much higher profile Warren Ellis and John Cassidy title from way back when. And this is definitely not anything to do with that. But this is by Christopher Rita and Alonso Molina Gonzalez. And this continues the story of these crew and cast members on the Aegis as they go in search of a new world and a new home for humankind. So it's one of the basic stories of science fiction. And thus far, it's pretty well mapped out and pretty well done. So I'm pretty excited to dig into this issue. I'm going to have to dig the other two out because, like I said, this has been gestating for quite a while. I think it's a couple of months late. But I'll have to go back and reread the first two issues with the third one to really get a bigger picture. And that might come as a issue 1 through 3 review on its own video as well. So keep watching for that. Next up, what a lot of people would consider to be the big book of the week, Ultimate Spider-Man issue 8. Sorry guys, my voice is still coming and going. This is, I did flip through this earlier, and it looks like it's Iron Man, Tony Stark, talking to Harry Osborn and Peter Parker about their suits, and they're trying to learn more about their suits. And so as this story continues to roll along, I think it's one of the greatest stories in Marvel's Ultimate Universe. I think that they've done a bang-up job of building this universe. And I think this is the strongest title. I really do. I think the art-wise, now, unfortunately, I think we've only got issue 9 with Marco Cicchetto, and I think David Messina is going to come back in for issue 10 and issue 11, but hopefully Cicchetto comes back for the big issue 12. I think it said there's only about a year left before the Maker makes his return. So this is going to be interesting to see how long Hickman and Cicchetto stay on the title. It'd be great to see both of them stay on for at least 2 years so that we can see the big finale from Hickman's run. But it's not been said how long these titles will run. I don't think that when Hickman leaves, they will be canceled. But this is one of those situations where this entire Ultimate Universe was built by Jonathan Hickman. And it's kind of his baby. So whoever they get to follow him on this title, I don't know that they'll be as critically acclaimed no matter who it may be. And I don't know if they'll have such an expansive worldview that this title has carried, more so than Ultimate Black Panther, and even more so than Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko, which I really love. I think that's a really great title, and I have dug the fact that it is a slow burn as opposed to just getting the X-Men team put together in the first issue and fighting Shadow King or Magneto or the Blob by issue 3. I do have to applaud Peach Momoko for taking her time to world build and to create something spectacular. Okay? And the last book that I got today is The Walking Dead issue 95. This is the deluxe version. So what that means is it's got color, whereas the original titles were printed in black and white. But it does have the original artwork by Charlie Adlard, just in really, really popping artwork, color artwork by Dave McCaig. So it presents it in a totally different light. If you've ever read the original run of the series, now you get an idea of what it looks like in color. And by the way, I keep saying it as we get closer and closer. But guys, we now have 96, 97, 98, and 99 before we get to the introduction of Negan, which was a real turning point for this series. So that's what I picked up, and that's what I have flipped through somewhat, unfortunately, guys, for this week. So look for some longer form reviews for some of these books. Ultimate Spider-Man, perhaps. Planetary Expansion. I'll talk about the ASM 259 Facsimile in another video. So thanks for sticking out with me. I appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos. Continue to help this channel to grow. If you have not, please like and subscribe to the channel and like this video, because it helps the algorithm get out there and help other people who love comics just as much as you do find this channel, and helps it grow. Not for my benefit, but for the benefit of the community. I really want this to become a community that we can talk about comics, talk about movies, talk about pop culture, talk about all these different things that help get us through the day, our coping mechanisms, if you will. So, like I said, guys, thanks again. Please like and subscribe, and we will catch you in the next video. Have a great night.